general. We're rolling.
All right, excellent.
We're on.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody out there. Hello. Welcome to the
Know Thy Enemy podcast. Yeah.
With your hosts, Howard T. Baxter for Completely Unbiased News and
The General.
Yeah. And we're here today, and we're talking about... What are we talking about?
The Black Dog.
The Black Dog. Not the pirate Black Dog from Treasure Island.
No. This is the weird ghostly phenomenon, mostly from the UK.
Here, pull this little net thing up a little bit. You want to touch the mic and make a lot of noise. I'm pretty excited today because I got my
got our new
really
mics.
good coffee.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Yeah. I was excited about the mics.
These are pretty decent mics.
Honestly, yeah.
We got them with our Leprechaun Gold.
Yep.
All right, so this is episode 3.
Episode 3. So in our journey to kind of explore the supernatural, paranormal, all that just fun hookum spookum stuff, I decided that we should talk about the Black Dog for this episode.
Black Dog.
It was just a black spectral dog that people see. It's mostly in the UK, so in England, Scotland, Wales, sometimes Ireland, but also surrounding areas in Europe, usually Northern Europe and Western Europe, and it's some in the US. But
you know, General, I'm actually having a hard time picturing this. Why don't you set the scene?
yeah, let me set the scene for you.
Okay, set the scene for me. What am I doing? Am I driving?
So you're on vacation to England, all right? You're
That's a pretty good vacation.
Yep. You're walking down a narrow passage at night. You spend the whole day at the pub. You've been drinking. So you're staggering down a little side street.
Hey, Lenny.
And then Lenny. So you're walking down a little side street, down a little alleyway.
Down a little alleyway. Am I in London?
You are you can be if you want to. You want to be in London?
Or wait, did you say I was...
You're just somewhere in England.
Was I in Scotland?
You're just an undisclosed location in England somewhere.
Okay.
Let's say Yorkshire. You're in Yorkshire.
I'm in Yorkshire.
You're in Yorkshire. You spent the whole day at the pub.
Whole day at the pub.
And you're staggering your way home.
Is there a lot of old salty sailor dogs in there talking about different types of things with cigars and...
You know, Baxter, why the hell not? Sure.
There's always going to be pirates involved.
So you're at a pirate bar in Yorkshire.
At a pirate bar?
You're at a pirate pub in Yorkshire.
All right, let's get serious here. Okay, so I'm in the pub.
You've been drinking all day, and you're staggering your way home down a back alley, and then you hear it. Sounds like somebody dropping marbles, almost like on the pathway.
Is there an old man is he a blind man?
It almost
with a
sounds
walking
like that.
stick? He's a blind man pirate from Treasure Island.
You're listening. It's getting a little closer.
It's getting closer.
It sounds like somebody dropping something or something hard hitting the pavement. Then you realize that almost sounds like a dog's nails when it's walking.
Dog's nails.
But bigger and louder. Like you've never heard a dog walk on concrete that sounds this loud. And then from around the corner, you see it. A huge, humongous, shadowy figure, almost as big as a horse. Dark, shaggy fur.
But it's not a horse.
It's not a horse.
But it comes out of the fog.
Comes walking out, big old puppy dog. Big, shaggy, dark fur. And it turns to look at you with its big, bright, red eyes the size of saucers.
Eyes are red.
And you die immediately.
Well, that's terrible. We can't have that. That's a terrible story.
You wanted me to set the scene. That's scene set. So you're dead, and you're dead from the Black Dog.
So is that what happens? Or the Black Dog looks at you with the red eyes and you die?
Basically, what usually happens according to folklore is if you gaze into its eyes, you die by daylight, basically. But if you just catch a slight glimpse of it, there's a good chance you'll die within the next couple months. By and large, This thing is an omen of death and tragedy and just an all-around bad thing. You don't really want to see these things. So they say that if you hear a howling and you're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, you hear a howling when you're in England. You are to close your eyes as tight as possible, as fast as possible, so that you don't accidentally catch a glimpse of the Black Dog.
So this is one of those things where one of those cryptids type things where if you look into it, or look at it in the eyes and you die.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
there's a lot of those.
Pretty spooky. But yeah, so this thing, it's widely understood to be just this weird phenomenon that appears. And there's even sightings up into modern day. But this has been going on for about as long as people can have records in England.
Have brains.
So as long as people have brains. Yeah, they're associated with hellhounds, bad omens. Usually they're accompanied by a big storm. Very, very closely associated with lightning.
Big storm. Oh, we could have added that into the story. I'm walking through the alleyway and I have to.
Right before you died, there was lightning.
There was a lot of rain.
There was rain and lightning, yeah.
Lightning.
There we go.
Was there a hot girl there? We were making out in the rain.
It was at the bar. She was a hot pirate lady.
Wow.
Yep. Feel better about the story now? You died happy.
I need to go there. Yeah.
What a way to go. But yeah, so they are usually said as being very, very large, sometimes headless, sometimes with backwards feet.
So you'd want to have wow, without a doubt in my mind, then, you would want to have a headless black dog come at you because then it can't kill you.
Well, you're still seeing it. It's not the eyes that kill you. It's just seeing the dog in general. Yeah, it's not making eye contact with it. It's just seeing it.
Well, that's not fair. That's like cheating.
Yeah, this thing's kind of a dick. But yeah, when it does have a head, it's usually seen as having very, very large, like saucer-sized eyes, either bright white, bright yellow, or bright red, and has very, very shaggy, thick, coarse black hair. Now, sometimes in folklore, they can be companionable, so you can make friends with a black dog sometimes, but they are usually a bad omen associated with death. So there are many different instances of very different instances, I should say, all related to the black dog myth and phenomenon in different parts of England. The first one I want to talk about is from East Anglia, and that is Black Shuck.
Black Shuck.
Black Shuck. So this is from East Anglia, and basically the storms around there, the howling wind can sometimes sound like wolves, and a lot of people think that that is where this myth came from. And I'm actually going to read a little excerpt I found of the first actual written...
yeah, let's get into that.
First actual written account of...
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. This was... Or I'm sorry, no, this one isn't the first account. This is from 1901. The very first account, it basically was saying that there was a town in East Anglia where there was a bunch of hunters came in, and they were all very horrible and dark clothed on big horses that looked evil and wild, and their hunting hounds were terrible and dark, and they looked rabid, and they're foaming at the mouth and stuff like that. And these guys stayed at a couple of pubs and caused a lot of trouble before going off and hunting. And a lot of people claim that is a spillover from the whole idea of the wild hunt from Norse mythology, with
the wild hunt,
where Odin would go out and just basically cause a whole bunch of mischief and stuff during his wild hunt.
Well, that's interesting. So what we're seeing here is a blending of mythologies.
Blending of cultures. Well, you got to think that England itself, or the UK as a whole, is sort of a mixing pot of cultures, simply because you have Celtic cultures, you have Danish, you have Norse, you have French, you have all these different cultures. Just people kept conquering the island, bringing their own stuff with them. So it creates this little melting pot of culture with a lot of legends and stuff coming from there. So, so basically the howling winds sound a lot like a wolf howling, and so that's why it's associated with storms. A lot of people say that you hear the howling, well, it's just a wind, or is it? It could be Black Shuck.
Could be Black Shuck.
So this is a description that was published in 1901.
My God.
He takes the form of a huge black dog and prowls along dark lanes and lonesome field footpaths where, although his howling makes the hearer's blood run cold, his footfalls make no sound. But such an encounter might bring you the worst of luck, It is even said that to meet him is to be warned that your death will occur before the end of the year. So you will do well to shut your eyes if you hear him howling. Shut them even if you are uncertain whether it is the dog fiend or the voice of the wind you hear. You may perhaps doubt his existence and, like other learned folks, tell us that his story is nothing but the old Scandinavian myth of the Black Hound of Odin, brought to us by the Vikings.
Who wrote that?
Not sure.
Oh, so this is just an account.
Yep, this is an account that I found. It was published in 1901. That's all the more I could find as far as when or where it was written. I could not find a source.
General, we're there. Have you fought this during the Great War, or was it, or the Monster War rather, or was this sort of hinted at?
I have come across several black dogs, but never black shuck specifically.
So there's different types of black dogs, but never specifically this.
Yeah,
one.
Not black shuck specifically.
Not this black shuck.
Black shuck is one of the ones you look at it, you die within the year. I did not die.
You did not die.
I did not die, to the best of my knowledge. But I have come across
Ghosts.
a few black dog specters. A lot of them, they just kind of, come with a storm, kind of bring mayhem with them, and then they go away. Not really something you fight, something you just kind of encounter.
So they're just kind of I guess they would be the scare tactics of the monsters, where they're
honestly, yeah, something they'll send ahead and to just kind of scare the bejesus out of you.
Kind of like the dogs of war, but instead they're there to destroy morale.
Spectral hounds of scaring the shit out of people.
Morale.
So, let's see here. Like I said, this one has red eyes, but sometimes it is pictured as only having one eye, right in the center of its forehead.
Wow.
Which is kind of a weird one for this one.
In general, it is a little weird.
Yeah, super weird. There is a
Didn't
church.
expect that.
There's a church called St. Mary's in Suffolk that there was an appearance of black shuck where it came into the church and actually killed a few people.
It came into the church?
Came into the church, broke down the church, and actually burnt the church door. Wait.
This is like a dragon?
No, they're associated with storms, so a lot of times like the lightning and stuff like that, or they can burn people just by touching them, because it is considered to be a hellhound.
Oh,
so it's got
that makes sense.
All the dark fiendish powers associated with
That
them.
makes sense.
So it burnt the door trying to get in.
We haven't come across that in any of our adventures.
Not as of yet. So in this most famous story of a black shuck appearance, Reverend Abraham Fleming of Bungay, which is in modern-day Suffolk, wrote a terrifying account of a hellhound's attack on the church in 1577 in his essay, A Strange and Terrible Wonder. Now, the spelling here is very much Old English, so I'm going to do my best to read this in modern English. So he was from Suffolk. This black dog, or the devil, in such a likeness, God he knoweth all who worketh all, running all along down the body of the church with great swiftness and incredible haste among the people, in a visible form and shape passed between two persons as they were kneeling upon their knees, and occupied in prayer, as it seemed, wrung the necks of both of them, both at one instant clean backwards, and insomuch that even at the moment where they kneeled, they strangely died.
That was a good impression of an old guy.
Thanks. But yeah, so basically it's the story of this church where the dog actually burst through the door, burning it, kind of spectrally passed through the door, was running up and down along all the parishioners who were praying in the church, and managed to rend the two of them, their necks straight back, snapping their necks. Some versions of the story, the people had their throats ripped out. And in another version that I found of this same story, one guy had the dog bit him on the throat, and without ripping it out, the skin on his throat tightened up like dried leather. So there's all kinds of really weird stuff going on with this puppy dog, let me tell you.
That's really weird.
But yeah, it's a very, very bizarre little critter.
Like it has poison from its teeth and that dried up the skin?
Possibly. It's very, very strange. There's some explanations people have for this where they're like, well, what if it's a bear? Because it's supposedly huge. Well, bears had been gone from the British Isles for some 1,000 years before this. And large wolves have been gone from the British Isles since about the 1700s. So this was before the wolves were gone. So this could have been just a giant black wolf, but it doesn't explain the burns on the door and stuff like that. Some people say, well, it might have been a lightning strike. Well, the lightning strike is associated with this animal, or this creature, this monster.
So what are the chances too that you would get a lightning strike right on the door,
right?
And then the big black dog busts in, or wolf
throats out, yeah,
busts right in. It seems kind of like a coincidence to me.
Yeah, it's a little fishy. Now they also say that the eyes glowing. It's not like if you see a wolf or a dog or a cat or something like that in the like out and about, where you see if your light reflects off of their eyes. Like if you have a flashlight, that light will reflect off. It's even in pure darkness where there is no light source. The light is produced like internally, like the eyes are glowing rather than reflecting.
Could just be some ancient species that doesn't exist anymore.
Could be. And there's actually a
you never
theory.
know.
There's a theory going out. Scientist name, I can't remember the scientist's name, but I know that her first name is Di. She theorized that instead of being a great black dog, that it's a great black cat. Because
what difference would this make?
Well, her theory, which is, it's funny, it's fascinating to think about it. Her theory is that because this creature is, legendarily supposed to leap great distances, and sometimes has no head, and that just certain ways that the claws hit the pavement, that it sounds like a cat, that the claws can't retract, or the great leaping that's very, very cat-like. And the fact that it's seen without a head, the idea was that whereas cats, the way their neck is mounted on their body, it's a little lower than a dog, so it might be a cat with its head down prowling. But the thing is, there's no like panthers or cougars in the British Isles that are big like this. So it like that whole theory is
or cougars.
Just a silly debunked theory. But I thought that was kind of fascinating. I wanted to bring that up. So
this is pretty fascinating.
So with
Professor Dye was wrong.
Professor Dye was wrong. So with the idea that Black Shuck leaving scorch marks on the
D-Y?
Just D-I.
Oh, not like Dye.
Probably
like
short for Diana.
Diana.
Yeah.
Like Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Or Princess Diana.
Princess Diana.
Or that chick that Michael Jackson was singing about, that was like the hooker trying to get him to do stuff with her. Dirty Diana. Oh.
We would play the music, but we'd get a copyright slap on the wrist.
Michael Jackson's lawyers would probably come and shoot us in the head.
Probably.
So, this whole idea of with the burns on the door and stuff like that, coming
Sounds
from
like a dragon.
Purely non-supernatural standpoint, the common theory for the debunkers is that there was a lightning strike at the door of the church.
Lightning strike?
This church, you can actually see the scorch marks to this day.
What? Really?
Yep, still on the church. That we'll throw up a picture for the people watching if you want to see a picture of the door.
Do we have a photo we can throw up there?
I do have one.
We have a photo.
Which it's kind of vague which parts are just burnt and which parts are
Wow, look at that. I haven't seen it yet, so this is just my reaction.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's a wow factor. Look at all that burning.
It's interesting. Well, there's not
Or did they
much.
replace the door?
No, it's still there.
They left the door off.
A little bit burning. I don't know. No, it didn't. The thing is, when it burst through the door, it didn't like blow the door off the hinges. It just like phased through the door. Apparently, it's super weird, dude.
The Witch King.
But here's the thing, and here's where everybody passes off all the hookum spookum with it.
Where it just happened.
Oh yeah, it totally definitely happened, just like that. Yeah, it went through the door. A lot of people think that it was a way for the Catholic Church at the time to scare people out of reforming, because there was a large exodus towards Lutheranism and the Anglican Church, away from Catholicism. And so you have a lot of these bishops just going, oh yeah, this horrible black dog is just killing people who are thinking about reforming. You better watch yourself, keep yourself in check.
What year was this?
Oh, this was way back when, 1577.
And I can't quite remember, but yeah, at this particular point in time, then Lutheran had already split off.
I do believe so. There was a lot of Catholic church reform.
Don't quote me on that, because I don't know.
In the time, there was a lot of people who were unhappy with the Catholic Church because you had people like pardoners who would go around. They would go from village to village. They would stop in a town and they would say, well, you're all going to hell unless you give me like, $15.
Right.
I can get put in a good word with the big man and get you into heaven.
And people back then couldn't always read, so
correct.
They didn't know what they were doing.
And they were actually, the Catholic Church did everything it could to keep the Bible continuously printed in Latin only, so only the very well learned and specifically the parishioner, the priests would be able to dictate what was said in the Bible. So it left all of the common man interpretation of anything out of it. So they basically were trying to keep the general public under their thumb to keep the church in power.
Right. And that's when Lutheran said, enough is enough.
Correct.
We're gonna split off. And then they were like, no, the big black dog demon will get you.
Yeah, big black shuck will get you.
The big old, basically sort of like a boogeyman.
Yes, it is.
Because there's always a sort of a boogeyman.
It is very much a boogeyman. It's this,
more or less,
this horrible, terrifying dog. And that's the thing is,
again, this is all theory and speculation. We don't know if they use this, but it's possible.
And you got to think how many folklore tales have to do with somebody meeting their end from a pack of wolves or something like that. A wolf is very scary. Wolves are huge. I tell you what, if you've never seen a wolf in person, take what you're imagining in your head as to how big this wolf is and literally double it. That's how big a wolf actually is. Wolves are freaking huge.
Oh, wolves are
terrifying.
Wolves.
Yeah, wolves are wolves, all right.
Quote Howard T. Baxter of the day. Wolves are wolves.
Howard T. Baxter.
You better watch out. And coyotes, too. Coyotes will come out, but they're smaller.
Yeah, they're much smaller. And they're kind of wimps.
Coyotes will come out, and they'll steal your puppies.
And they'll yip at you and go.
And eat you.
Yip. But, yeah, so you can see where
Sneaky
this would be a very effective deterrent for people. And you got to think this is a public that is very superstitious, is far less educated than a modern day, like even the least educated among us, knows to have some skepticism when it comes to certain things like this. But these people were told by the heads of their church, who were some of the most powerful people of the day, hey, you better watch yourself or else this dog's going to drag you to hell.
And you said this is one of the theories.
This is one of the
working theories as to
what it actually
as to relate it to this church.
Correct.
Okay, because a lot of people presumably in that church were leaving, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, this dog will come and get you."
Correct.
Well, what are some of the other sort of?
Well, another thing it was used as is you got to think like
could be the salty sailors that are spreading stories.
Yep, it's all the pirates. No, yeah, this was also used as a way to keep kids behaving. You get your parents. They were saying like, "Hey, you best get yourself straight, start listening, and stop dicking around, or otherwise Black Shuck is going to get you and look at you and make you die, or drag you to hell, or rip you to shreds, or something like that." It was that idea that parents even use nowadays. It's like, if you're not good, the boogeyman will get you, or the tooth fairy won't leave you money, or Santa's going to give you coal. All those ideas, even though. All of those things are very, very real.
I was just about to say Santa Claus is real.
Oh, very real. He's a cool guy.
There was a big big front during the Monster War up in the north, and he was fighting the Greer was split up.
Santa Claus double fisting Tommy guns. It was pretty freaking cool. No, I was super
mess
cool.
with Santa Claus. No, fighting Krampus up in the north.
Santa Claus will kick your ass. Like Santa Claus is an ass kicker.
I don't know this, of course, because I'm reporting it for Completely Unbiased News, but I wasn't there.
Santa Claus during the war, whenever he joined up with us, when we had our downtime around camp, he'd just be sitting around a campfire just curling 80s. Like Santa Claus is a beefy dude. Santa Claus is jacked, or at least last I saw him, he was. Who knows?
That could have been.
It was years ago.
Years and
years ago. But during the war, Santa was jacked. Santa was freaking he was built like a brick shithouse, man. And
he was betrayed by Krampus, who used to be his best friend. I guess we're getting off track here.
So Black Shuck.
So Black Shuck.
But yeah, so that's one of my favorite stories of Black Dog. Another one that is from the Isle of Man is the Mother
The Isle of Man. And this is close to Scotland, yeah?
Kind of. It's like kind of tucked between the main Isle of Britain and the Irish Isle. It's like it's tucked right in between them.
This is one of the filming locations in The Last Jedi where they filmed Luke Skywalker.
Actually, yes.
It was the Isle of Man, and that's where he was a cranky old little
I thought you were talking lore-wise, and I was like, no, that was a planet, but...
Lore-wise, no.
Yeah, lore-wise...
it doubled as the, whatever the hell planet that was, I don't know.
I know what you're talking about, though, yeah.
Just a little... Just a little bit of a, I guess it would be a fun fact.
Yeah. I had fun.
I was making fun of a guy called Brad.
Did you have fun? I had fun.
That was pretty fun, I gotta say.
Yeah, it was a good fun fact. But yeah, this thing is called the Mother Do. Which...
The Mother Do?
Mother Do.
Mother Do.
It's spelt... It's spelled Moddey Dhoo.
Mother Do.
But it's pronounced Mother Do. It's the Manx language. It's
Mother, like the.
Yeah, like father.
Mother
it's
Do.
like think of it like father, but with an F, or with an M rather.
This sounds kind of
Mother
Norse.
It's closer to Celtic and Welsh. It's from Isle of Man. The language is actually Manx.
Exactly what I was thinking about. Exactly, 100%.
There you go. You're a smart guy. But yeah, it's the Mother Do, which basically roughly translates to black dog. And this is an occasion of a black dog at Peel Castle in the Isle of Man. This was during the reign of Charles II, so quite a ways back.
Charles II.
Charles II.
He was a king.
So there was another guy named Charles.
Maybe, I don't know. Who knows?
There's this other dude named Charles.
Just trying to imagine somebody fact checking the show. How fun that would be.
Oh, dude, I can only imagine somebody fact checking us.
If you know more than we do, leave in the comments below.
Please do. Tell us.
Please
everything.
tell us.
Tell us everything we got wrong. But so there was another guy named Charles who was an earl at the time who was stationed at.
His name was Earl.
His name was Charles.
Oh, he was an earl.
He was an earl, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Charles the Earl. He was at he was at Peel Castle, and so the way that this castle was set up was you had a gate, which was connected to a gatehouse, and the soldiers' quarters was butted right up against the gatehouse. And so you have your guards, your soldiers in the castle. During the nights, they would go and they would hang out in the soldiers' quarters, the guardhouse.
Yeah.
And
so the Chuck.
Yeah, it's the Mother Do. The guards at the end of the night, they would go to this guardhouse to spend the night. They would eat their food. They would just hang out, play cards, gamble, stuff like that, and sleep in this little guardhouse right by the gate.
What year was this?
I don't have an actual year, but I know it was during the reign of Charles II.
Did they have playing cards back then?
They've had playing cards for like a very long time.
You'd be surprised in some form.
You honestly would, or even dice. Like they play a lot with dice.
Dice games.
Dice was a big thing.
They were playing Dungeons and Dragons, but for real.
Yeah, they were playing Warhammer 40K.
Because there was a giant dog dragon thing with glowy eyes. Sometimes it never had.
You have Edmund the guard. Like, yeah. So my army, I have a Adeptus Custodes army here. I get 7 attacks per round. And I actually painted the miniatures myself. They are gold in the glory of the God Emperor.
No, that's not right. Oh, that's not accurate. I don't know who that was.
I don't either, but I was
kind of annoying.
I was going to let it roll. I was excited to find out who this guy was. All right, so yeah, you have all your guys are at the guardhouse, and the way that they would have to do it is they would lock the gate at night, and then one of the guards would have to take the keys for the gate and walk it through this underground dark passage to the captain's quarters, deliver the keys to the captain, walk his way back to the guardhouse, and then spend the night there guarding the gate, basically.
How do you get back with no keys?
The keys were for the gate. The keys were for the gate. You lock the door, you walk into the soldiers' quarters, and then there was a tunnel connecting the soldiers' quarters.
Underground?
Yes, connecting the soldiers' quarters to the captain's quarters.
So he would get outside of his door, go close the gate, go back into the guardhouse, go through a trap door all the way over to where the captain is, give him the keys, come all the way back underneath the ground, up where he is to sleep, and go to sleep.
Similar, but I don't think there was a trap door. I think it was just a little staircase that goes down.
That's boring.
But it's history.
Wow!
Yeah, but... You got that coffee today, brother.
Good coffee.
Good coffee. So basically the way they would do that, they would lock the door, walk through this passage, drop the keys off, come back, spend the night. One night they're sitting there.
They're having a sleepover.
Yep, having a little sleepover. Talking about girls and their crushes.
Talking about girls, talking about...
Putting braids in each other's hair.
But of course, this was back in, 800 or whatever.
I'm going to actually look up when the reign of Charles II was, because now I'm curious.
Because then that way, see, what they're doing is, they're back there talking about the one good-looking maiden that's in the village.
Yep.
Let's call that one.
Reign of Charles II. All right, so he was... Okay, he ruled from 1660 to 1685.
Oh, 1600s.
1600s, yes. Late 1600s. So one night, all the guards are sitting around, just hanging out, having a good time, laughing, drinking, eating, and they start to hear that kind of tapping noise, like the dog's nails on the flagstones, and a very large, shaggy, spaniel-looking dog that's pitch black with red eyes walks in, looks at all of them in turn, very calmly and quietly walks over to the fire, curls up in front of the fireplace, and just goes to sleep. And all the guys are kind of like, what? And so they were just absolutely terrified because they were like, first off, how the hell did this dog get in here?
Well, I didn't expect that at all.
And it came from the pitch black passageway where they would have to walk every night to deliver the keys.
Oh.
So it came from pitch black darkness. And so they just kind of kept to themselves, left the dog alone because they were like, as long as this thing isn't screwing with us, we're not going to screw with it. Kept playing their games and everything. And once morning came, it stood up very quietly and calmly, walked back into the dark hallway, and vanished.
And this is one of the legends, one of the instances of the
legends,
the
yes.
Chuck.
So
or Shuck. It's a sh or ch.
Well, this one's the Mother Do. This isn't Black Shuck.
All right, this is the
Mother.
This is the Gomer Do.
Yeah. Yep. His old spooky Scooby Doo. And so
that old Gomer Do.
So the next night, same thing happens. Night comes. This dog walks out of the darkness, sits by the fire, lays there until morning, gets up and disappears back into the hallway. And this keeps happening night after night after night to the point that these guys just kind of become accustomed to it. Like, oh, that's just, they start calling it the Mother Do. They were like, that's just Mother Do. It just comes, it hangs out, doesn't bother us. We don't bother it.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
And just something that became a thing until one night, one of the guards drank a little too much. He started getting cocky. He's like, I'm not scared of the Mother Do. I'm not scared of it at all. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So one thing that I forgot to mention is the guards, because they were kind of intimidated by this thing, they stopped going by themselves down the tunnel, and they would only go in pairs because they didn't want to encounter this thing by themselves in case, they wanted to have a buddy who could help them out because they were afraid of what would happen if the spectral dog, they encountered it by itself.
That's good thinking.
So this guy, I'm not scared of no goddamn Mother Do. I'd take keys by myself to the captain. I'm just scared. I'm a big boy. I could take on a little puppy dog. And so he gets up, and they're like, dude, no. And he's like, we'll see if this thing is dog or devil. And they're scared of no mutt. And he turns to the Mother Do, and he curled up by the fire, and he's like, you listen here, the damn dog. I'm just scared of you. I'm going to take the keys to screw you, doggy. And he goes by himself with the keys down the hallway.
This doesn't look good.
No. And so the dog very calmly stands up, looks at the rest of the guards, looks at the hallway, and then just very silently trots into the hallway after the guard. They are all like, uh-oh, this thing hasn't gotten up in the middle of the night. It always just lays by the fire, and it's going after this guy that just basically trash-talked a dog.
Oh, that's just Lenny. Who cares?
They're just, and they're like watching. They're like, what's going to happen? And then they hear a snarl, a blood-curdling scream, and then a deathly silence for a few seconds until old Lenny comes staggering back into the room, pale as a sheet, and faints into one of his buddy's arms.
So he was still alive.
He was still alive.
Oh.
And he would not tell them what he saw. It was too terrible for him to even think about, and he would go into hysterics for the next 3 days until he died. 3 days later.
Wow. Well, you know what it was the Gomerdu. The Gomerdu?
Motherdu.
The Motherdu. I'm getting this confused with something else. There's something else.
You're thinking Gomer Pyle.
No, but there's something similarly called that, like the, Gomerdu or
Scooby-Doo?
I don't know. Well, anyway, so Lenny. So this dog comes in and was sleeping in his bed every night. That's why he got pissed.
Is his bed by the fireplace? I don't know.
It very well could be.
But no, this thing goes, scares the bejesus out of him, and he dies 3 days later, and it was never seen again. The Motherdu was never seen in any official capacity again. Like, this is documented. The soldiers all wrote about this, that this was a thing. But after Lenny got scared to death, it never showed back up. But there are still legends of the Motherdu being seen on stormy nights in the Isle of Man.
It's maybe he was so drunk that he was sort of imagining all this.
He tripped and banged his head on a rock and gave himself a brain bleed and died 3 days later. That's a high possibility.
Or he just had a heart attack a couple days later.
Caused by being scared.
As a result, scared
by
of
the
dark vision. Well, the dog was real, so we could establish there was a dog. Yep. And with the dog...
Yeah, the dog is documented, so we know there was at least
a dog. But the dog freaked him the hell out on his way back.
Yeah.
And then he died of a heart attack because back then people only lived until like 40.
Going, it doesn't bother them at all. It just goes, curls up by the fire, doesn't even go after their food or anything, and they just leave it be until you get that one asshole who's like, I ain't scared, don't bother doing fire.
Hey, Lenny, don't do it.
And then immediately the dog just follows him, scares him, and he dies 3 days later. It's just fun. But
wow.
So that's the story of the Motherdu.
Motherdu.
Last one I got that I'm going to talk about is the Barghest, which is more of a general term. This one's from Northern England, especially Yorkshire. So this is the one you encountered in the little story.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the one that sometimes appears with a head, without a head. It's supposed to be very goblin-like, bright red eyes. This one always has 2 eyes if it has a head. And also, it's said that it can shapeshift into a man or a woman or a headless man or woman or different types of animals. This one is more of a sort of like trickster, freaky thing rather than
Martian man.
Sure.
Doesn't the Martian man...
Martian Manhunter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't he shapeshift?
John.
I don't know.
That was his name, John.
Oh, John.
Martian
He's the green guy.
Yep. So basically, this is the one that if you you have one glimpse of it, you're going to die within months. But if you look longer at it, you should die by daylight.
Dead.
Like I said, with it being sometimes seen without a head, that's what led credence to the idea of the great black cat theory rather than great dog.
Great black cat.
But that I think is a bunch of hooey.
I don't know. It all sounds real to me. Pretty sure this happened.
So, much like vampires, the Barghest cannot cross running water like a river, and has many different names across the area.
What is this with rivers?
It's the
cryptid
idea
creatures
of running water is seen as pure and clean, whereas standing water can collect muck. Like you're never going to see algae in a running pond. So running water is seen as cleaner and more pure. And that's why a lot of baptisms are done in rivers rather than like a lake or a pond.
So this is all done on the idea that there's good water and there's bad water.
Yeah, the quote-unquote purity of the water, basically. in a spiritual sense.
And this is where you come into like water killing vampires and
Yes. Yep.
different types of things like that.
Yep. And so this thing is also known as the
Doesn't have any bacteria in it.
the Demon of Tidworth, the Black Dog of Winchester, Padfoot of Wakefield,
Titworth.
Dog of Darkness, Dog of Hell. In Lancashire, it's called Trash.
What?
Yeah, Trash. It's just called Trash. Skriker or Striker, because of the sound of its nails hitting the ground. And this one is the one that is seen as having backwards feet, and sometimes they make a splash noise when it walks.
Does it run backwards?
I believe it runs any which way it wants to.
Yeah, but if the feet aren't pointing forwards and the feet are pointing backwards,
That'd be
but
like
the
really
body's
difficult
pointing
to walk.
frontwards.
And it makes you wonder what the hell these people were on. They're seeing this dog with no head and backwards feet. It's like, did you see a
Well,
couch
that's what I'm
or
trying
a
to
bench?
say.
Like,
There must have been a lot of, potions running around.
something. Because, yeah, this one's really weird. I didn't grab a whole lot about this one because this one is more of a kind of a collective for a lot of different legends. The first two were the ones that I really wanted to dive into. But now that we know our enemy here, this is talk about ways to avoid dying from this black
Now
dog.
that we know thy enemy.
So the first thing is, if you hear a howling when out at night, you are supposed to close your eyes tightly and wait until silence falls again. Same with if you ever hear that striking noise of nails on pavement, because that is a sure sign that you could come across a black dog. And if you see it, that could mean death for you. Other legends have people leaving out food and treats for such a beast if they think that it is haunting their homestead. Like if you hear the howling around your house, that could mean misfortune is going to befall you unless you befriend the black dog. So people will leave out treats of meat or goodies for this thing, and sometimes they find their luck turns around. There are some versions of this thing called a church grim, which is actually a good spirit. This is a spectral dog, again, black in color, shaggy coat, very large, glowing eyes, but it actually protects the church grounds from ne'er-do-wells and grave robbers and burglars and teenagers who want to go get high on the gravestones.
A grim, you say?
A grim, yes. A church grim.
Well, so are all these grims, or is a grim a separate type of thing?
Grim is a separate kind of thing. The black dog is more the evil version. The grim is kind of the church-related version, I guess.
Okay, so that's a separate subject.
Kind of, sort of, but they are related. They're all like black dog is an overarching term, kind of like all tortoises are turtles, but not all turtles are tortoises.
Fair enough.
Or all champagne is wine, but not all wine is champagne. That sort of an idea.
What about, is there a connection with the Sherlock Holmes story with the...
Hound of the Baskervilles.
The Hound of the Baskervilles.
Hound of the Baskervilles, yes. The concept behind the Hound of the Baskervilles actually comes from a version of the Black Dog myth. I believe it was from Yorkshire is where that one originated. Arthur Conan Doyle was very deeply inspired by the idea of the Black Dog myth. This large, spectral dog, sometimes glowing, bright eyes, ripping the throats out of people. And if you see it, you're marked as unlucky or marked for death.
Well, this makes sense because the Hound of the Baskervilles does glow.
Yes.
But I think, at least in the modern version of it, it was because of radioactivity or something like that.
See, in the
Phosphorus?
in the novella, it was he was rubbing like I want to say it was something that was phosphorescent. I think it was paint that he was just covering his dog in.
That's right. Yeah. Is that the one with? Well, there's a couple different movie versions as well, but.
That's the one that it's not even really a story about Sherlock Holmes. It's mostly Watson doing everything, and then Sherlock Holmes pops up at the end and is like, it's actually a dog.
By the way, I am alive.
Yeah, he just kind of pops in. But yeah, there's lots of different stories. Even in Harry Potter, Sirius Black.
Oh, he is the Grim.
Yep, he is based off of this idea of the black dog.
Wow.
A lot of different werewolf stories originated as this story of the black dog. Now, this idea of the black dog, again, the quote-unquote Hound of Odin, is very old. and this is a legend that came from. Oh, do I have a? Oh, thank you. It's a legend that
Your
came
metal
from.
was crooked.
It's a legend that came from Scandinavia and the Germanic areas, and came to Britain. Very, very old legend from the Wild Hunt, and so a lot of ideas of werewolves and beasts like that originated from that.
So a lot of the origins of this are from Norse mythology.
Some, yes.
When the Vikings came over and killed everybody. And... Nice.
Fun story about the Vikings. A big problem that a lot of higher-ups in England had with the Vikings is that a lot of their women, a lot of the English women saw the Vikings show up, saw that they were actually, very tall, blonde men that were good-looking, took care of their hair and brushed it and like bathed regularly and wore like perfumes and stuff like that. They were washed people, like they were clean and good-looking dudes, and so these women would just go and run off with the Vikings because they were like, oh, these guys are hot and don't smell like a freaking hot dog under a heating tank. And all the guys are like, these Vikings, they are bathing and seducing our women. They must be of the devil.
Those fiends.
And so
they just kind of show up and and they got the axes and everything. They just come up and just and yeah.
So for our female viewers, you imagine, most of the British Isles, all the men in this historical time, in my mind's eye, all look like a mix between Nicholas Hoyt and Steve Buscemi. And they're like these little like, oh yes, ooh, and they all smell like just armpit. They just smell terrible. They smell like shit.
Sanitation was really bad back then.
Some church leaders actually prided themselves on staying filthy because they believed that washing one's hands was of the devil. And that's why a lot of people who, if the pastor went to check on their wounds, they got infected, would get gangrene because these guys have poop hands and they're putting them on all the wounds and stuff. So yeah, you got these poor you poor women in this time period. These are the type of men who are courting you, and then you have these tall men in these bright colored tunics coming up on these cool boats with dragons on the front.
Ripped as hell.
They got ripped as hell. They got these long spears and stuff, and the spears are very phallic.
Well, they were in the Northman
very
anyway.
suggestive.
That was a good movie.
They got cool little stocking caps on. They show up. They got long blonde beards and hair, and they smell good.
If they all look like
all their hair's brushed.
Alexander Skarsgård.
Like Alexander
there you
Skarsgård.
Go.
and they start talking to you, and they all got the deep voices, and they're like, and you're like, and then next thing you know, you gotta name a new river, and
name a new river.
They are aroused, Baxter. They are aroused.
Yes.
Try to be as gentle as possible. Our poor childlike listeners. I don't want to grunt them too much. But yeah, so
you don't want to be too grotesque.
Too vulgar and grotesque. So these Vikings show up and got you guys feeling all horny, and then you're gonna run off with these Vikings, and then you got your Nicholas Hoyt, Steve Buscemi dudes being like, oh shucks, there's no ladies anymore. So,
which is kind of ironic because even going back in history even more to the Roman times and whatnot, they had elaborate sewers and they washed and different things like that.
Mm-hmm. The Dark Ages.
Dark Ages were called the Dark Ages because it was
actually a lot
the
of
storm
it
clouds
is,
came over and it was dark all the time. I'm just kidding, but somebody would believe that. I'm pretty sure.
Some people would believe that. No, a lot of what happened with that whole aspect is the idea that the Catholic Church came to power, and they wanted absolute power over Europe and surrounding areas. And so they actually put a lot of restrictions on local townsfolk, what they could do, what they could think, what they could be, in order to maintain said power. And so a lot of science and things like that, different understandings, backslid during that time. Not so much as a lot of history books want to portray it as. You had a lot of townsfolk that did still bathe and still were fairly hygienic, but medicine took a backslide because the church did its best to convince people that the only way to be healed was through God or through a mouthpiece of God, which would be a member of the church, which you could have for, the low price of 3 payments of $19.95.
9 shekels.
Yeah, 9 shekels.
Or whatever they used back then.
So the church tried to monetize faith, healing, and
which
health in
isn't
general,
which isn't right.
which isn't right.
And then eventually that's where you get all the Enlightenments and
Yeah, we get the
Lutherans
Renaissance and the
and
Enlightenment, where people started rediscovering all the good stuff and started going like, well, all right, maybe we don't need this Pope dude.
or whatever.
Or whatever, yeah. So, yeah, that's the Black Dog.
That's a black dog.
That's about all I had on it. It was absolutely fascinating. I had a lot of fun researching this one and looking more into it. Lots of really good pictures, which I'm sure have shown up on the screen throughout for those who are watching rather than just listening. Very terrifying looking pictures too. Like it's a freaky looking thing. And I could just imagine, if you're in the middle of a city and all of a sudden this giant like horse-sized dog shows up with these big round saucer eyes, and like that's scary. I mean,
It's pretty scary. Wow, this was fascinating.
Yeah,
It goes off in all different directions.
all kinds of different directions.
And
Yeah.
possibilities about, you get into the old days of medieval times, and you get into the power struggles at the time with the church and people and different things. Lots of allegedlys. We don't know. We weren't there.
Right.
We don't know.
Now, one last thing I want to end on is the idea that this creature, there are theories that this could be a spillover of energies from supernaturally,
Supernatural energies.
like a sort of residual haunting of wolves from way back when. Now, that is something that we're actually going to get into in the next episode. We're actually going to talk about supernatural perception, different types of hauntings, and things like that.
We're going to talk about what?
All kinds of different hauntings and
What's supernatural
Perception?
perceptions?
How-
Don't tell me.
Oh,
We need to find out in the next
yeah,
episode.
you're going to find out in the next episode.
Next
yeah.
episode, episode 4 of Know Thy Enemy, with the hosts, Howard T. Baxter, and the General. I almost said Completely Unbiased News.
With Howard T. Baxter.
With Howard T. Baxter and Completely Unbiased News.
If you enjoyed what you saw here, please like, subscribe, let us know what you think in the comments. If you have another creature you want us to cover, tell us in the comments. We're open to just about anything. Anything sort of even, fiction, literature, folklore.
The weirder, the better.
The weirder, the better. Give me something obscure and fun that there's a lot of information about.
Something people have never heard of before.
Yeah. Or, hell, something that everybody's heard of that you just want us to go over. Like the Mothman. We're going to do the Mothman eventually.
Absolutely.
It's just fun. And next week, if we talk about supernatural perception, hopefully that'll shine a light on how and why only some people perceive these things rather than everybody. We also have a Patreon. Check that out. It'll help us to be able to not have to record in a basement.
Well, we could be anywhere, General. We
could be anywhere.
We're not necessarily in a basement.
Well, we did say last episode it is a basement.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Give to our Patreon so we don't have to record in an alleged basement.
And and check the links. All the links will be in the description below. We have our gaming channel as well. There isn't any gaming on it yet, but there will be.
There will be.
We have old film reviews on there. Check that out. That's Garkhouse Gaming. And then also check out the film review channel, the Filmist Universe. We do. We got film reviews on there.
Yeah. They're all over the shop.
Really?
Check out our other videos on this channel. We put a lot of hard work into them. I think they're a lot of fun. They're very funny. Just going around chasing different monsters, and we have different.
Yeah, that's
sketch
Baxter
comedy.
and the General.
Yep.
Check that out.
Adventure of Baxter and the General.
Plague
Check out
Doctor.
our TikTok channel. We got that linked
out
up
the
as well.
TikTok.
That's a lot of fun. It's a lot more of this sort of thing that we just did here, just short form. Compressed down to like 3 minutes worth of content. That's about all I got.
Yeah, any videos that we show, there'll be a link below that will lead you to the actual video that we showed you.
Mm-hmm. And we appreciate you guys spending the time and watching
And
this far. Because that's great. That's good for us. Every time you guys watch something, gets us one step closer to making some money off of this and being able to do this full time and not have to have.
Yeah, please check us out. Please check out the rest of our videos. And we really appreciate all you guys, and thanks for sticking around and going on these journeys with us.
We need to do an episode on Cthulhu sometime.
We'll definitely do an episode on Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
Maybe. Who knows?
You know what we should do an episode on that would be really terrifying?
Really cool hats.
Howard T. Baxter's love life.
Howard T. Baxter, Completely Unbiased News, and his love life. No.